Good morning, afternoon, evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Arseni, and we are back in Battlefleet Gothic. Why? Because of this new 5th faction banner hanging right here, which are the Space Marines. Space Marines were a faction that were promised as the first kind of expansion faction to the game. Early backers got the Space Marines for free, and anybody who actually bought the game, I think, up to a month after it came out, got them for free as well. So they're finally out, June 21st. They're out, and I'm very excited to try them out. I actually tried them out a little bit. Before we do so, let's take a quick look at how the Space Marines are different. Well, they have pretty fast, very tough ships. Their ships are very resilient to insubordination. Basically, they never actually mutiny because Space Marine ships are crewed by the chapter serfs, the humans who have been raised to be fanatic followers of that Space Marine chapter. They're very good at assault actions, like orc levels of good, if not better. They've got very powerful favors that we're going to look at in a minute, but they have quite expensive ships, not very good at long ranges. They don't even have a lot of long range options, to be honest, other than torpedoes. They don't have any defensive fighters. Now that's actually not exactly true, and I'm going to show you what I mean in a minute. But let's take a look at the Space Marines. Immediately you can see that there's a few things. There's actually a thing that's already different about them, which is you can switch chapters. Now I expected that Space Marine chapters would be more like favors, but that is not a route that Tyndall's Interactive went with, and I'm very happy that they actually didn't. Basically, when you create a new admiral, you choose which chapter you want. So you have 5 chapters right now to choose from: Ultramarines, Imperial Fists, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and Blood Angels, which are the ones I went with. Now, chapters change the paint scheme and the heraldry of your ships, and you're going to see that in actual game. They also changed the portraits, so Blood Angels have these beautiful kind of masks. Ultramarines have the traditional kind of ultramarine Smurfs, as the tabletop players call them, blue and gold scheme. Imperial Fists, Dark Angels with their green and kind of a bone white scheme and wings. Space Wolves, of course, with their blue, kind of a different Space Wolf blue and gray scheme, and of course the Blood Angels. Now, I was kind of hoping just a little bit that they would put in Blood Ravens, which is a Space Marine faction from Dawn of War games, but they didn't. But I called my Admiral Gabriel Angelos after the great captain of the Blood Ravens anyway. So let's jump in. He's level 2 Admiral, because I played just a few games just to get to the Strike Cruiser, just to unlock that cruiser slot, and so I could show you a little bit of their ships. So far, I like what I see. They don't play too much like the Imperial Navy. Hopefully, I'm going to show you in game what I mean by that. Neither do they fight like orcs, who are all about getting in close and doing assault action. So they kind of play as kind of a bit of a blend, as a bit of a blend of Imperial Navy and orcs. I actually have to point out something you may see. I think you're probably seeing it right now. Is the Space Marines DLC came out with a big patch, and for some reason this patch, I don't know what it did to my graphics settings, but it actually kind of, slowed the game down a bit. Like I've started to see more frame rate drops than I have before it, so I don't know. Anyway, let's jump in. So I have a strike cruiser. I also have 3 light cruisers. We're going to get to them in a second. Strike cruiser, basically Space Marines get 3 varieties of different strike cruisers: Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3. They're different based on whether do they have ordnance, torpedoes, or bombardment cannon, which is a new type of weapons that only Space Marines get. So stats-wise, 600 hull integrity, shields is regular. Speed, not too slow for a cruiser class. Rotation detection is all fine. Troop value is 70, which is, I think, better than Imperial Navy right off the bat, of course. Decent turrets, decent amount of turrets. I went with the one that gives you Ordnance Launch Bay because Space Marines have some very strong ordnance, which is fighters, bombers type of weapons, and they're actually quite a carrier faction, as you're going to see. So the bombardment cannon, which is a pretty powerful kind of short-range, mid-range cannon, but it has a 270-degree firing arc, which is pretty exciting. And it has just macro batteries. As for traits, pretty accurate at short and medium range, as you would expect. It basically, they will insubordinate only under the most extreme circumstances, and they will not insubordinate if warp jump is on cooldown, which is actually pretty cool. Very thematic too. Space Marine maneuvers, they have all the same maneuvers that Imperial Navy and Chaos have, and they have surgical strikes, which is fantastic. All assault actions reduce the enemy troop value by 10. So whether you're striking Orcs, Empire, doesn't matter, their troop value is going to be reduced by 10 against your assault action. Upgrades. Now here, there aren't a lot of new things in upgrades, but there are a few. Engine and generator are all standard. In the deck, you can actually upgrade your Lightning Strike to the first company Terminator Lightning Strike, which reduces the enemy troop value by another 10. It is fantastic. The rest of the deck options are basically the same. Hull-wise, basically the same, except you get Chapter Relic, which increases the troop value by an additional 5. Not bad. Weaponry, there are a few new options here. Chapter Banner, you reduce the cooldown of boarding and Lightning Strike by additional 10%. Pretty good. Boarding torpedoes. So yes, they are an Imperial faction that actually has boarding torpedoes. That is really, really cool. Unfortunately, I don't actually have enough renown to unlock any of upgrades right now, but I just want to show you really quickly. Thunderhawk gunships. Okay, so Space Marines are a little bit different because instead of launching fighters, bombers, and assault ships, instead they have Thunderhawks. And they have regular Thunderhawks, which act both as fighters and as assault boats, which is pretty cool. Or you can also add Thunderhawk gunships, which add as both fighters and bombers at the same time. So that's what I mean when I said that Space Marines almost feel like a carrier faction, like a carrier slash boarding faction, which is a very interesting combination. The rest of the weaponry is basically the same generic stuff: armor piercing, target matrix, and so on. So yeah, so some interesting things here. In skills, there's basically one new skill which is in support, and that's the one I picked. It's the Stormhawk Squadron. So if you want dedicated fighters, you can pick the skill. Now remember that Thunderhawks, whether you're talking about Thunderhawks or Thunderhawk gunships, already act like fighters anyway, but Stormhawks add additional fighter squadrons to your ship. So it's not a bad option. I just picked it because it was different. I didn't pick it necessarily because it is better. I picked it because it's something unique to the Space Marines. Okay, favors. So this is where it gets interesting and quite different. They got 4 favors, just like everyone else. Master of Sanctity. Master of Sanctity makes the ship immune to every enemy assault action. That is amazing, especially when playing against Orcs, because when Orcs are all about boarding, they're all about assault actions, this makes your ship immune to assault actions. Duration 30 seconds, which is quite a long time. I can see this being very handy. And you also get a Master of Sanctity crew member. So yes, this the favors of the Space Marine fleet actually change your crew, which is very cool. And it will reduce the cooldown of the Word of the Emperor, which is what makes your ship immune to assault actions, depending on how many points you put into that crew member. Okay, Chief Librarian. Chief Librarian, Fear of the Darkness. This is very cool. You trigger a mutiny on the targeted enemy ship. That is very powerful, especially against factions such as Orcs that are very prone to mutiny, and Imperial Navy, which does mutiny, depending on, unless they put some points into negating that kind of thing. So very cool. Again, you unlock the Librarian crew member, which is going to reduce the enemy chances to resist the mutiny. Master of the Force. Now this was the one we've seen before, really. It basically gives you one additional upgrade slot to the ship. However, it unlocks the Master of the Forge crew member, which gives you additional upgrade slot per level of that crew member. So you can potentially put a lot of extra upgrades on this one ship. That is really powerful. Potentially, if you want to spend, because remember, you still have to spend renown on upgrades. So you do need a lot of renown to take advantage of this of this favor. Finally, Chapter Master. And Chapter Master, this is a kind of an interesting one. It requires a bit of micro. It switches between stances. And you have two stances. Finest Warrior basically raises the troop value of the ship, and it reduces the enemy troop value against your ship's assault actions. So in other words, it gives you more troops, and it makes the enemy less resistant to your troops. Or you can switch to Commander Stance, which improves the effects of Lock-On, Reload, and Brace for Impact special orders, which is good, except take a look at that very last thing. It says, for every ship in the fleet. This is sexy. This is really sexy. And it unlocks the Chapter Master crew member, who is going to improve both of those orders. Very cool. Let's take a quick look at the crew. All of this is the same, but this slot here, the one that's locked. Now, because Space Marines don't insubordinate, unless we're talking about extreme circumstances, you don't get the Commissar equivalent of Space Marines. Instead, depending on what favor you unlock, it unlocks this special crew slot. So very cool. Unfortunately, we don't have enough for now to upgrade our cruiser, but let's take a look at our light cruiser. This is the one that I decided is going to be kind of more focused on boarding. It is equipped with First Company Terminators and also Stormhawks to protect a bit more. So we're going to keep upgrading its Space Marine rating, which basically increases the troop value. All right. Actually, yeah, let's take just a quick look at the aesthetics. Aesthetically, they look somewhat similar to the Imperial Navy, but they have these prow ordnance base that you can see here, and they don't quite have these Gothic towers. They're a little bit sleeker, but at the same time, they also just have a bit of a kind of a stumpy or truncated appearance. The Vanguard light cruisers, they all basically look the same, just very, very minor changes you can see on this one. Instead of torpedoes, it has these lances mounted under its prow, whereas this one has torpedoes, so it doesn't have those lances. Escort ships, you get 3. You get Hunter Destroyer, which is basically a torpedo ship. Nova Frigate, which has a lance, there it is, and Gladius Frigate, which is basically macro weapons in a 270-degree arc. It's pretty straightforward. Transport ships, to be honest, there's no reason why Space Marines need transport ships, because that's what their warships are. Their warships are primarily a method of delivering Space Marines into surface battle, and their kind of space fighting roles are really secondary. But they put a transport ship just for those missions where you have to escort them, so they look exactly like the Imperial Navy transports. Anyway, actually, before we jump in, if you take a look here on the right, you're going to see there's an option to already invite a friend. This is very cool addition that they talked about before, and basically you can invite a friend to your battle. So I'm playing in the skirmish mode, not in the multiplayer mode, but if I want to, I can invite a friend to my battle. And we can play on the same side, or we can versus one another. This is very neat little feature to promote players playing with and against each other. Let's go to battle and just play a quick battle. Hopefully it'll be quick, just to show you how they handle in battle. So we're playing a cruiser clash, 300 point. Now you can see here that the cruiser, and this is just a level 2 cruiser without any upgrades really, costs 154 points. It's quite expensive. We're going to take our cruiser, of course, and we're going to take let's take the level 3 Vanguard Mark 1 light cruiser. That's the one that has torpedoes, because our cruiser doesn't actually have torpedoes. So really, 300 points when we only got 2 ships. Now we're fighting against Eldars, and I have no idea, actually, how Space Marines fight against Eldar. So this is going to be interesting. I played them against Orcs, Imperial Navy, and Chaos, and I've won all 3 battles. Orcs gave me a little bit of a problem just because the ships were so tough, but in general, Imperial Navy and Chaos, I just took them apart with Space Marines. But against the Eldar, we'll see if we're going to fare better. Or worse. I mean, they might just kite me around all day long. Alright. Yeah, you can see a bit of a frame rate drop, and I really have not experienced it before. Now this patch is actually very big. It changed some fixed some UI issues, fixed some gameplay issues, some bugs, some things not registering properly. But it also, I think it did change some graphic settings. So I may have to try and re-optimize the game for my computer. Okay, so right off the bat, actually, if you have seen the interface before, you can see that now the interface actually shows you the hotkeys right there, kind of StarCraft style, which is very handy, because while I generally understood, for example, the B is for boarding and, you know, all that stuff, now at least I can easily see what the shortcuts are. Okay, these are our Thunderhawks. We're gonna actually put them on auto launch. There's no reason not to, but we're gonna keep our Stormhawk squadrons. Stormhawks are our dedicated fighters. We're gonna keep them in reserve. One thing I didn't do, and one thing I kind of regret not doing, is actually taking a probe, which is just so handy. I don't know why I didn't. I think I was just kind of like, yeah, let's take some special Space Marine only options. The other thing you're going to notice is that they do have their portraits, and you may hear this a little bit in the background. It is a new faction, and they didn't just reuse voices from Imperial Navy. They actually created new voices for the Space Marines. We're fighting 4 ships. Yeah.
Tactical maneuver engaged.
They sound very much like Space Marines, especially if you played Dawn of War games.
Ready for battle.
They sound very much like that. Let's just test it out with torpedoes, so you can see if how many fighters they might be fielding. Might even maybe get a lucky hit, but I doubt it. We are fighting Eldar. They can just sail away. They will literally just sail away. The behavior of ships have been improved. Actually, I've noticed that my ships, if I don't kind of tend to them, they will try to actively avoid things like bombs, like stasis bombs, plasma bombs, and so on. Pardon me.
At your command.
And let's give them some more torpedoes to think about.
Show us the enemy. Enemy in sight.
And let's do a lightning strike. Boom.
Deep striking.
And another lightning strike. Oh wow. Gonna brace for impact.
Astartes vessel ready.
Wow, we are doing really well.
Course.
Wow, that lightning strike really succeeded though.
Astartes vessel ready.
Took a big chunk. Let's launch our fighters with our main cruiser. So we're doing pretty well, all things considered.
Standard speed engaged. Main batteries fire.
I don't know why that cruiser was just kind of sitting there.
I am listening. Only in death does duty end. Repositioning.
Yeah, I don't know why he got kind of stuck there. Yeah, you can see that the Elder are, of course, much faster than us. But
Setting priority target.
we were doing okay. Like, we quite easily destroyed 2 ships.
Standard speed engaged.
You know, we took them apart with our lightning strikes.
Course.
Now the Elder are trying to dance around us, but I'm just waiting for our lightning strikes to reach cooldown. Okay,
Beginning tactical
let's take apart their engines. So, lightning strike and lightning strike.
Terminators. Deep striking. Standard speed engaged.
Okay, good. Okay, they did not succeed on their lightning strike.
Redirecting.
Cool, you want to fly away? That's fine. Boom. You're dead. You are dead.
Initiate targeting protocols.
Let's give them some torpedoes to think about. Of course they're going to evade those torpedoes.
Moving to position. Ready for battle.
If I was them, I would try to disengage. We actually lost our ordnance
Astartes
on...
vessel ready. Standard speed engaged. I am listening.
That's okay though.
We are the chosen of the Emperor.
That's fine.
Astartes vessel ready.
They can dance around us.
In death does duty end.
Do have the full complement, but
Space Marines ready.
all we need to do is just wait for a lightning strike to recharge, or better yet, with our cruiser for our boarding action to recharge, which is going to take us just 3 seconds.
New vector
Yeah, we have to
acknowledged.
close with them, but that's okay. My engines are not blown up yet,
Show us
so...
the enemy.
Insubordinate captain?
Engaged.
Yes! Yes! Okay. Nice! We blew them up. Alright, so actually, I would say this was harder to fight than Imperial Navy Orcs or Chaos. But it was manageable. It was nowhere near how difficult it would be for Orcs to fight Eldar, for example. Or Chaos especially to fight the Eldar. Our ships didn't level, unfortunately, and neither did our Admiral, but that's okay. We earned a decent amount of renown. So there you go. This is the Space Marine faction. What do you get out of it? You get 5 different chapters. They're cosmetically different, at least. A faction that plays somewhat differently. It's a close combat, boarding, and carrier faction. They've got some unique weapons, specifically the bombardment cannon, though we didn't see it in action. Sorry about that. I'll probably put out another Space Marine video when I unlock the battle barge, their big vessel. And you know, this is a faction with some very different favors. It has somewhat different crew options and some interesting, unique upgrades and skills. I look forward to playing them, and of course I look forward to seeing more of the next promised faction, which is going to be the Tau. Well, thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm putting out a lot more Warhammer, specifically Battlefleet Gothic and Total War Warhammer content, and some other strategy games content as well. So I hope to see you in my next video. Bye for now.